Measures of center. So here's an activity you can do to get an idea of different data and statistics we can use to interpret that data. So the activity is that each of your group members will draw a color card from a bag. Each person will then take all the tiles of their color from the bag. And then you can discuss with your group how many tiles does your group have in total. Then how can you equally share all the tiles? For example, how many would each member receive if you ignored the color? And then think if each member has a different number of tiles according to color, you can write out a list of how many tiles each person has from least to greatest. Look at the two middle numbers and then ask what number is in between those two numbers. It's different ways of looking at the data from that activity. Now, there's two pieces of significant information you can follow up with after that activity. The first is, what was the significance of the number you found when you shared the tiles equally? Well, that number is called the mean or average. It tells us that if you evenly distributed the tiles, each person would receive that number, that same amount. And then what was the significance of the number you found that shows two members with more tiles and two with less? So this number is called the median. It is in the middle of all the numbers. This number shows that no matter what each person received, half the group had more than that number and the other half had less. So the vocabulary, again, that we've been looking at with that activity is called a measure of center. We have 3 measures of center for our data. The first is the mean, which is the sum of the data values divided by the number of items. We most commonly know this as the average. We have then the median, which is the middle data value when all the values are written in numerical order from least to greatest. And then we also have a value called, or a measure called the mode, which is the data value that often occurs the most often. You'll see that number the most. So let's take a look at these 3 measures of center individually, starting with the mean. So to find the mean of the ages, here we have an example of the ages for the Apollo pilots given in a table. So to find the mean of their ages, we want to add their ages all together and then divide by 7, which is the amount of pilots, the number of pilots. So we have the Apollo Mission 11, the pilot's age was 39, for 12 it was 37, 13 was 36, 14 was 40, 15 was 41, 16 was 36, and 17 was 37. So again, we're trying to find the mean of these ages. So we're taking all of their ages, 39, 37, 36, 40, 41, 36, and 37. We're adding them together. We're finding their sum, which is 266, and then we're dividing by 7 because that's the number of pilots. That's how many data points you had, which gives us 38. So the mean of the ages is 38 for these pilots. So let's try some more examples. So we have find the mean. We have data points 10, 8, 9, 8, and 5. So again, mean is finding the average. We're going to find the sum of all these data points and then divide by how many there are. So we would add 10 plus 8 plus 9 plus 8 plus 5 and then divide by 5 because there are 5 data points. The sum is 40. And then 40 divided by 5 gives us 8. So the mean in this example is 8. Here is some of the important vocabulary that we will learn when talking about or referring to measures of variation rather than measures of center. So a measure of variation, the first one would be the minimum. The minimum is the smallest value in a set of data. It's the least number in the data. Maximum is the largest value in a set of data. It's the opposite of the minimum. It's the highest value in the set of data. Then you have the range, which takes the difference between the greatest data value and the least data value. So it's the difference between your maximum and minimum. The quartiles are the values that divide the data into 4 equal parts. So you can have your lower or first quartile, or sometimes also referred to as Q1. That would be the median, so the middle of the lower half of the data. The upper or third quartile, also sometimes referred to as Q3, is the median of the upper half of the data, so that's the middle of the upper half. Then you have your interquartile range, which is the difference of the upper quartile and the lower quartile. So you subtract Q1 and Q3, or Q1 from Q3. And then you have your outliers. Outliers are numbers that are significantly larger or much smaller than the rest of the data. So let's actually start to look at these measures of variation given a data set. So we have our data set here. We have 14, 17, 9, 2, 4, 10, and 5. So first, let's try calculating the minimum and maximum values. First, we have what is the minimum in this set of data. Remember, the minimum is the smallest value in a set of data, so you're looking for the smallest number in the list. Here we have our smallest number is 2. Then it's asking for the maximum in the set of data. Think the maximum is the largest value in the set of data. You're looking for your highest number. So that in this list would be 17. So we have the minimum is 2 because that was the least or lowest number out of all the numbers. And the maximum is 17. It was the highest or the largest value compared to all the other numbers. Then, given that maximum of 17 and a minimum of 2, what is then the range? Well, the range is the difference between the greatest data value and the least data value, or the difference between the maximum and the minimum. So we need to subtract 17 and 2. We need to subtract the maximum and the minimum. So that will give us 17 minus 2 equals 15. So therefore the range is 15. So finding the range, you need your maximum and minimum values. So you need to be able to identify the largest value and the smallest value in a set of data.